Rama has asked how the non-physical mind can affect the physical body. This is the old mind-body problem, which can never be answered in the terms given. As long as you believe that mind and body are of separate nature, you cannot answer this question. I think the modern tendency is to assume that consciousness or mind is physical. It's part of the body. But this still doesn't work, because clearly our subjective experience is non-physical. The only logical answer is to assume that it's all consciousness. It's not that the mind is of the nature of the body, it's that the body is of the nature of the mind. In fact, everything physical is actually mental. Again, intellectually, this might not make much sense, but you really have to look into it very, very deeply. One question you might ask is, well, if everything's mental, how come I can control my body here, but not that cup over there? Why can't I affect things at a distance? But this involves notions of control, notions of doership. We've got into certain habits of thinking, certain habits of thinking that we are a doer. And one of the signs of realization is realizing that you're a non-doer. You are a non-doer. You no longer identify with the ego that thinks it's in control. This is the nature of the ego. The ego thinks it's a doer. The ego thinks it has some control, even though it's a very minimal control. And it won't want to let go of the notion that it is in control, that it is a doer. And this is the working ground of the spiritual practitioner. The extent to which you believe and feel that you are a doer demonstrates the magnitude of the inquiry that you must undertake. Vasishta has a story here which may or may not help. It's a story he told once before, the 10 sons of Indu. We had this story back in section 3, chapter 86. So we get a recap of it here. Vasishta continued, there once lived a brahmana named Indu. He had 10 sons. In course of time, Indu passed away, and his wife too followed him to the other world. The sons performed the funeral. They were not interested in the affairs of the world. They began to consider what might be the best form of contemplation that would enable them to live like gods. In pursuit of their aspiration, they went away to the forest, and they engaged themselves in intense contemplation and penance. They remained like statues or painted pictures. Their bodies withered away, and what remained was consumed by carnivores. They were immersed in contemplation, so this withering away and being eaten was not the end of them. They were immersed in contemplation. I am Brahma the Creator. I am the world, and I am the entire creation. Now that the minds of these 10 were devoid of embodiment, but were saturated with such contemplation, those very minds became what they contemplated. Thus it is their thought that exists as this creation. Or it's the thought of one of them. One of them became the Brahma of this creation. So one of them is God. This universe is pure consciousness. Even the earth, the mountains, etc. are pure consciousness. The point here is that through this contemplation, they became creators. And this is purely consciousness at work. This universe is pure consciousness. Even the earth, the mountains, etc. are pure consciousness. What else is it? Just as the minds of the sons of Indu manifested here as the universe, even so the notion of the universe or creation that arises in Brahma the Creator itself appears as this creation. Hence all these elements, the earth and the mountains, are all nothing but pure consciousness. The potter, known as consciousness, with the help of the wheel of his own body, which is consciousness, and of clay, which is also his own body, fashions this creation. If all these creatures and substances are not consciousness, what else are they? This creation stands in the same relation to consciousness as radiance to a jewel. Is the radiance of a jewel separate from the jewel itself? The jewel is one thing, and yet it seems to have many reflections and give off many different colours, but it's one thing. And this radiance which entrances us, which charms and hypnotises us, is not different from the jewel itself. All this is indeed Brahman. This is certain and indisputable. As and when this truth is clearly seen, immediately there is an end to sorrow. And this is the only way to really resolve the problem, the mind-body problem. It can't really be resolved on its own level. The statement that everything is consciousness is one that has to be realized and not simply intellectually accepted. Otherwise you're just getting into some kind of philosophical idealism, which is okay, but it's not spiritual understanding. As and when this truth is clearly seen, immediately there is an end to sorrow. All your psychological anxieties disappear. If this truth is not seen, then sorrow becomes firmly and solidly established. The wicked and the ignorant do not see this truth. In their eyes, this samsara is a solid reality, and they do not perceive this truth at all. There are no forms. There is no existence nor non-existence, no birth and no death. There is nothing known as reality, nor something which can be called unreal. In other words, all the dichotomies, all the discriminations we make into this and that are purely relative and notional. The Supreme, which is absolute peace, perceives this creation within itself. It is not independent of Brahman, the infinite consciousness. So why create the false notion of an independent manifestation? Why create the notions that there are things that we can control and things we can't control? In its unliberated form, it has thousands of eyes and other limbs. That's you, me, and everybody and everything else. In its liberated state, it is all peace, tranquility. Enough of such descriptions. Realize it.